Hi, Assalamualaikum. My name is Samir Adib Zikri bin Muhammad Salimi. Today I would like to explain about variation. So what is variation? In the definition, variation is change in contract document which necessitates the alteration or modification of the design, quality or quantity of the work. This change of work is common problem in construction project in Malaysia. It is inevitable in any construction project, and this problem can become more serious when variation order causes work progress to be impaired as a result in increase the construction time and cost that affect the construction industry in Malaysia. The variation includes the work as described or referred as addition, omission or substitution of any work, alteration of the standard of any materials, good to be used in the works, and removal from site of any work executed, materials, goods brought thereon by contractor. According to Pertubuhan Arkitek Malaysia PAM 2006 Clause 11.1D, any changes to the provision in the contract with regards to any limitation of working hours, working space, access to or utilization of any specific part of the site, the execution and completion of the work in any specific order, and the execution of temporary works, but shall exclude any changes intended to rectify any negligence, omission, default or breach of contract by the contractor, and such changes shall be executed by the contractor entirely at his own cost. Next, for issue of variation. According to PWD Clause 24.1, page 18, the SO may issue instruction requiring a variation in a form of variation order. No variation required by the SO shall vitiate this contract upon the issuance of such variation order. The contractor shall forthwith comply with the variation order issued by the SO. According to PAM Clause 11.1, page 13, the architect may issue an AI ordering a variation or sanctioning any variation made by the contractor. No variation ordered by the architect or subsequently sanctioned by him shall vitiate the contract. Pending the valuation of the variation, the contractor shall carry out with due diligence and expedition all variation so instructed. Next, for additional causes by variations, according to PAM Clause 11.7A, the contractor shall give written notice to the architect of his intention to claim for such additional expenses, together with an initial estimate of his claim duly supported with all necessary calculation. Such notice must be given within 28 days from the date of the AI or CAI giving rise to his claim. The giving of such written notice shall be condition precedent to any entitlement to additional expenses that the contractor may have under the contract. While according to PAM Clause 11.7b, within 28 days of completing such variation, the contractor shall send the architect and the quantity surveyor complete particular of his claim for additional expenses, together with all necessary calculation to substantiate his claim. If the contractor fails to submit the required particular within stated time or within such longer period as may be agreed in writing the architect, it shall be deemed that the contractor has waived his right to any such additional expenses. Next, for variation and additional expenses added to the contract sum. According to PAM Clause 11.9, as soon as the architect and quantity surveyor have ascertained the amount of the variation or additional expenses claimed by the contractor under Clause 11.7, the amount so ascertained shall be added to the contract sum when an interim certificate issues after the date of ascertainment. Such amount shall be included in the certificate.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Zulkarnain bin Nazirwan, and in this morning I will explain about valuation of variation. Basically, valuation of variation is how to measure the variation. Variation may give rise to addition or deduction from the contract sum As Adib explained, the variation of variation may include the work which the variation instruction describe, other expenses that may result from the variation, such as the impact on the other aspect of the works. Variation may also, but not necessarily, require to adjust the contract sum. In PWD 203A, in clause 25.1, all variation instruction in writing by the SO in accordance with the clause 24 hereof shall be measured and valued by the SO. The valuation of variation, unless previously or otherwise agreed, shall be made in accordance with the following rules. This clause states that every variation arising from the SO should be measured by the SO itself. Unless it was agreed by both parties for the contractor to do the valuation, it was a different step. Clause 25.1 divided into 3, which is A. The rates in the bills of a quantity adjustment, if necessary, as provided in clause 26.6 and 26.7 hereof, shall determine the valuation of work of similar character and executed under similar condition as work price therein. This clause states that if the variation work change the sum in the BQ, then the work shall be adjusted. Such an example, if there is extra than the original sum, contractor shall be paid accordingly, but if there is imbalance, it will be deducted from the contract sum. But if there is nothing to be changed, then the work shall be proceeded as agreed at first. Clause 25.1b. The said rates where work is not of similar character or executed under similar condition as aforesaid shall be basis of rates for the same, so far as may be reasonable, following which a fair valuation thereof shall be made by the SO. This clause explains that whether the work is not similar from the previous work or it was under similar work and the rate is similar, it will be the SO to take responsibility to respond and determine which one it was in. And in clause 25.1c, the rates in the bills of quantity shall determine the valuation of items omitted, provided that if the omission substantially vary the condition under which any remaining items of work are carried out, the rates of such remaining items shall be valued under Rule B. This states that the rates in the BQ will determine the valuation item that been left out, and if it can be clearly seen against ongoing item, then the other item will be determined by the SO whether to value it in similar item or not. For clause 25.2, where work cannot properly be measured or valued, the SO may allow day work price as specified in appendix. Unless otherwise provided in the bills of quantities, the day work prices for the purpose of this contract shall be taken to mean the actual net cost to the contractor of his materials, plans and labor for the work concerned. The contractor shall be paid day work prices plus 15%, which shall include for the cost of all ordinary plan, tools, scaffolding, supervision and profit. Provided always that as a condition precedent to any right to any payment, the contractor shall produce vouchers, receipts and wage books, specifying the time for labor and plan employed and materials used to the SO, not exceeding 7 days after the work shall have been done. This clause explains if there is work that cannot be measured properly, the SO can allow it to be measured on day work price, except it was stated in the BQ where the rate was the actual net cost of an item on the contractor material, then the SO will allow the contractor to be paid on day work, and added 15% include all the costs for that particular item. Only if the condition that the contractor need to provide written evidence and issue to SO, not exceeding 7 days after the work is done. For clause 35.3, the amount of variation shall be certified by the SO and added to or deducted from the contract sum as the case may be, and the amount shall be adjusted accordingly. The clause states that the variation amount will be verified by the SO whether added or deducted from the contract sum and will be adjusted accordingly from the original contract. Clause in PAM 2018, which is in clause 15.5, all variation shall be measured valued by the architect Upon completion of the variation, the contractor shall submit complete details and particulars as required by the architect for variation, where any recording of the site information and or site of measurement are carried out at the site. The contractor shall provide the architect with such assistance as may be necessary to carry out the works, and contractor shall be given the opportunity to be present to take such notes and measurement as he may require. Continue. If the architect is of the opinion that the details and particulars submitted by the contractor are insufficient to enable him to carry out the measurement and valuation, the architect shall within 28 days from the receipt of the contractor submission inform him of any deficiency in his submission, and may require the contractor to provide such further details and particulars within a further 28 days. When the contractor has submitted sufficient details and particulars, the architect shall measure and value the variation within 30 days or any other extended date as agreed between the architect and contractor. This clause explains that the architect will do the measurement on the variation with detail provided by the contractor, where the contractor will be given the opportunity to assist the architect to do the valuation as the contractor may require. But if the architect finds that there is lack of detail and information provided by the contractor in the first 28 days after submission of the detail and information, so the architect will demand the contractor to provide any missing detail and information in further 28 days. After the architect finds that the detail and information is sufficient for him to do the measurement, he will value the variation in 30 days or any other extended as agreed by both parties. Okay, that's all from me. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Nur Izzah Adila, and I'm going to present about adjustment of contract sum. Contract sum is the price that has been agreed by both the contractor and the client and entered into the contract. The agreed contract sum should be calculated and checked every carefully, as errors are deemed to have been accepted by both parties. Kat sini dimasukkan contract sum ialah harga yang telah dipersetujui oleh kedua-dua belah pihak, iaitu klien dan kontraktor. Harga tersebut perlu dikira dan dicek supaya tiada kesalahan dan dimasukkan ke dalam kontrak. The contract allows the contract sum to be adjusted due to the following circumstances under PWD 203A, which are: the first one is variation order is issued during construction under clause 24. The clause 24 defined as changes, variance which necessitates the alteration and modification of the design quality and work stated in the contract document. For example, if client wants to make changes at certain element, the original contract sum will change either there is addition or an omission. The adjustment is made as soon as variation works is completed. Every issuance of APK, which means Arahan Perubahan Kerja, must be followed by the issuance of PHK, which means Perakuan Pelarasan Harga Kontrak. Next, remeasurement of provisional quantities under clause 26.6. SO shall do measurement or remeasure the works for the purpose of variations of work. If the actual quantities is more than the provisional quantities in the BQ, must get an approval from Jawatan Kuasa Tambahan Kuantiti Sementara. Third is cost in relation of inspection and testing materials and executed work, clause 35.2. The clause states that the contractor shall at his own cost provide samples of material and goods for testing purposes when instructed by the client. Then, the cost shall be added to the contract sum. Next is contractor claim to fees and charges in relation to supply of water and electricity under clause 6.2. The client should reimburse the contractor for such costs by adding to the contract sum, dengan syarat kos yang dibayar tidak berasal daripada original contract sum walaupun dalam provisional sum. Next, adjustment of prime cost sum and provisional sum under clause 34. Prime cost sum and provisional sum are the important element to produce contract sum. Both elements in the BQ is temporary, which is bersifat sementara. Sebagai contoh, prime cost sum diperuntukkan kerja yang melibatkan specialist work, contohnya aircon, lift dan electricity. Item tersebut perlu ditender semula sekiranya klien setuju untuk guna. Bila nak buat interim payment or final account, ada accepted figure and tendered figure. Figure tersebut which is yang akan mengubah nilai contract sum tersebut. Then the adjustment is made selepas selesainya kerja and final cost is ascertained. Item di dalam prime cost sum and provisional sum yang tidak digunakan mestilah dikeluarkan daripada contract sum. Next, adjustment of error in BQ under clause 26.3. Error yang dimaksudkan ialah any error in description of quantity or omission of works from the BQ which shall not vitiate the contract but shall be rectified, and the amount in respect of such rectification shall be added to or deducted from the contract sum as the case may be. Next is variation of prices under clause 30. The clause states that the variation of price must be carried out in every interim payment, and the final adjustment is made after the whole of the works is completed. The net total of any such increases or decreases shall be added or deducted from the contract sum. The last one is disposal cost of fossil, fall under clause 65. In PWD 203A, the adjustment of contract sum must be issued through perakuan pelarasan harga kontrak, also called as PHK. The procedures to be followed in the preparation of PHK such as, the first one is PHK must be prepared when the contract sum has adjusted. The issuance of APK also changes the contract price by the estimated temporary value, and it must be finalized based on the calculation and the final value using PHK, regardless of whether the value changes or not. However, the value stated in the PHK is the net value of the difference between the final value and the provisional value, whether additional, omission or blank. Second, the details in PHK must be filled in correctly. The details regarding the contract and the contractor in the certificate are same with the details in the contract document. Third, the date of certificate is the date when the SO signs the certificate. Fourth, the description of the adjustment should accurate and clear. If the adjustment due to variations, reference number of APK must be specified. The last procedure is evidence of the adjustment must be attached. PHK must be signed by SO. The original copy of PHK must be issued to contractor and all parties involved. The information that I have presented just now is the provision under clause 29. The clause states that the amount to be added to or deducted from the contract sum in respect of expense or loss due to fees and charges in relation to the supply of water and electricity and permanent connections to water, electricity, telephone and sewerage means under clause 6.2, variations under clause 24, rectifications of errors in bills of quantities under clause 26.3, fluctuation of price under clause 30, payment of prime cost sums and provisional sums under clause 34, opening up work for inspection and testing materials or goods and executed work under clause 35.2, loss and expense under clause 44, and cost of disposal of fossils, etc. under clause 65 hereof shall be certified by the SO. Next, adjustment of contract sum in PAM 2018. Event or reasons that allows the contract sum to be adjusted, such as variation works under clause 11.6, remeasurement works, remeasurement of provisional quantities under clause 11.6F, omission prime cost sum and provisional sum, clause 30.11C, adjustment of profit and attendance, also under clause 30.11C, adjustment of provisional sum based on actual expended and omitted if not expended under clause 10.11D, additional expenses claims under clause 11.7, and loss and expenses claims under clause 24.4. Some of the adjustment in this contract is quite same to the PWD. As for additional expenses claims under clause 11.7A, the objective of this clause is to enable the contractor to be reimbursed as part of the cost of variation for the additional expenses he has incurred, carry out the variation and for which he will not be compensated under clause 11.6. However, the contractor is allowed to claim provided that the contractor shall give written notice to the architect of his intention to claim such as additional expenses and shall send to the architect and QS complete particulars of his claim under clause 11.7b. Next is adjustment of contract sum due to loss and expenses under clause 24.4. Basically, the clause means that architect and QS must assess the claim based on particulars and calculations submitted by the contractor, but not merely on a general assessment before including the amount into the contract sum. The clause that provided for adjustment of contract sum in PAM 2018 is under clause 13. The clause states that the contract sum shall not be adjusted or altered in any way whatsoever, other than in accordance with the express provisions of the contract. Any arithmetical errors or any errors in the prices and rates shall be corrected and or rationalized by the architect or consultant without any change to the contract sum before the signing of the contract. I think that's all from me. Thank you.
So next is prime cost and provisional sum. Definition of PC sum. PC sum is the allowance to be provided by the contractor. The works need to be done by the specialist or experienced person. The specific amount will be earmarked in the BQ. So, PC sum ni merupakan allowance yang di-provide oleh kontraktor untuk kerja-kerja yang perlu dilakukan oleh orang yang berpengalaman dan pakar sahaja. Contoh pekerjaan tersebut ialah electrical installation, firefighting system, lift installation. Allowance ini hanya boleh ditentukan semasa kerja-kerja tersebut dilakukan di tempat binaan. Definition of provisional sum. Provisional sum is the allowance to be provided for work which may or may not be carried out at all or to work whose content is undefined. So, provisional sum ni merupakan allowance yang di-provide untuk kerja yang dijalankan atau tidak dijalankan di site. Contohnya, landscaping work, piling work and TMB substation. Kerja-kerja ini dia bergantung pada client requirement dan juga bajet yang ditentukan. So next is clause in PWD 203A. In clause 34.1, in respect of any and every prime cost of PC sum provided in the contract, the amount due to any contractor shall be determined by deducting the said prime cost of PC sum and the relevant profit and all attendance charge from the contract sum and substituting for the same with actual amount due to relevant nominated subcontractor or nominated supplier as value in accordance with the relevant subcontract, and the sum due to any contractor by way of profit and all attendance charge at the rates or price stipulated in the contract document. So dalam clause 34.1 ni dia menyatakan kalau ada prime cost atau PC sum yang di-provide dalam kontrak, kita akan tolak prime cost atau PC sum yang dianggar bersama-sama dengan profit dan attendance dan digantikan dengan prime cost atau PC sum yang sebenar sekali dengan profit dan attendance. Profit dan attendance itu akan mengikut harga ataupun rate yang ditentukan dalam kontrak dokumen. In clause 34.2, the provisional sum may be expended at such time and in such amount as the SO may direct. Such sum, if not used either wholly or in part, shall be deducted from the contract sum. The value of works which are executed by the contractor in respect of provisional sum shall be ascertained in accordance with clause 25 hereof. The set value of such work executed by the contractor shall be set off against all such provisional sum, and the balance shall be added to or deducted from the contract sum as the case may be. So dalam clause 34.2 ni dia menyatakan jika ada amount yang tidak digunakan secara menyeluruh ataupun digunakan separuh sahaja, maka ia akan ditolak daripada kontrak sum. In clause 34.3, any work to be executed or material or goods to be supplied for which provisional sum are provided in the bill of quantity may, if the SO decide, be treated as PC sum item and shall be dealt with accordance with clause 34.1. So dalam clause ni dia menyatakan kalau ada kerja yang perlu dilaksanakan ataupun material ataupun goods yang dibekalkan yang mana diletakkan dalam provisional sum DBQ, so rules tu akan sama dengan clause 34.1 tadi. In clause 34.4, where the contractor in the ordinary course of his business directly carries out works for which PC sum are provided in the bill of quantity, and where such works are set out in the appendix hereto, and the SO is prepared to accept tenders from the contractor for such works, the contractor shall be permitted to tender for the same or any of them without prejudice to government's right to reject the lowest or any tenders. If the tenders of the contractor for any work included in the PC sum is accepted, such tender shall be held to include the profit and attendance charge as contained in the bill of quantity, notwithstanding any provision to the contrary under clause 34.1. So dalam clause ni dia menyatakan sekiranya main contractor ada pengalaman untuk buat kerja NSC dan main contractor nak join NSC lain untuk mana-mana tender yang ada di dalam kerja NSC, ia dibenarkan tetapi atas kelulusan oleh klien. Jadi jika klien bersetuju, klien kena bayar pada NSC dan juga klien kena bayar profit and overhead kepada main contractor. Dalam clause ni juga dia cakap klien bagi main contractor masuk tender bersama subkontraktor yang lain untuk buat kerja NSC tersebut. Kebiasaannya klien ni bagi Maincon join tender sebab Maincon dia mempunyai harga yang berpatutan lah untuk buat kerja NSC tersebut. Jadi bila Maincon diterima untuk buat kerja tersebut, maka tidak ada lagi profit dan attendance sebab kita hanya bayar profit dan attendance tu kepada NSC saja. Jadi bila Maincon yang buat, nilai profit dan attendance tu perlu ditolak daripada contract sum dan perlu dibayar balik semula kepada klien. So for the last one, is clause in PAM. In clause 1.4, the architect shall issue in regard to the expenditure of PC sum and provisional sum included in the contract bill and PC sum which arise as a result of instruction issue in regard to the expenditure of provisional sum. Dalam clause ni dia menyatakan tentang arahan untuk menggunakan PC sum dan provisional sum. Kita tidak boleh guna sesuka hati clause yang ada pada PC sum dan provisional sum tanpa kelulusan klien. Contohnya, kalau klien ada bajet untuk membuat landscaping work, kita perlu buat tender terlebih dahulu untuk melaksanakan landscaping work tersebut. That's all from us. Thank you.